Hello and welcome back to the Real Music Talks podcast. Today's guest is Andrea Dee, a singer-songwriter from London. How you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad at all, thanks. So let's get right into it. How did you first get into music?
Well, so I was 12 years old, long time
Wow.
ago, and I took some piano lessons, and then I started doing singing as well. And yeah, at 12, I just said to my family, "I'm going to be a singer." I had no idea what that meant, but yeah, so I went with it, and I didn't change my mind. For many years passed by, and yeah, and then I went to art school in Paris. So I'm originally from Paris, and then I went to art school in Las Vegas, and then from there I started my professional career. So yeah.
Wow, like quite a few different places and like influences. So what was
Yeah.
it? What was it like moving between those places and sort of studying music and doing stuff in all those areas?
Well, from Paris to Las Vegas, it was big culture shock, super culture shock. um, it and totally different, like the French mindset in terms of being an artist is very different than the American mindset. But however, I got my first job at 18 was in a huge big production. I was doing 2 shows a night, working. So I was, for me, it was like, wow, this is easy. But then after that, because I don't like life to be so easy for me, I moved to New York because I really wanted to go into the songwriting, and I wanted to live life a little bit, and kind of
Mm.
feel it out. So I went to New York, and I wanted to find what I had to say, why I wanted to be a singer. I went to New York and I lived there for 10 years. And that was kind of when I grew as an artist. I think I found my voice there, as in my voice singing, as well as my voice as in what I have to say. And then yeah, and I went on tour, had my band, US tour, European tour. And yeah, and then moved to Europe after that.
How did you go about like discovering your kind of voice? Because I think a lot of artists do kind of struggle with that. Like, do they kind of copy their biggest influence, right? Or
Mm.
do they go like down their own sort of unique path?
So yeah, I was very lucky that on my journey, I met my producer Erin, which we've been working together now for a very long time. We're still working together, and I remember being in the recording studio, and in my head, it was like, I grew up with Mariah Carey, Celine Dion, like big Whitney Houston, so big vocals, and I always thought, if I don't hit that note, then I'm just not a singer. Nobody will take me seriously. And he kind of influenced me in a way that I was like, but why? Why do you need to hit that note? Is that note gonna make you like, that's not you, that's them, So finding like where you position yourself, and again, it's more about what you have to say than that technical thing. So I studied technically music for a while, but then I had to kind of forget it all and kind of just feel it out. And that's a total different feeling. And then obviously you put it all together and you have the technique where you can sing, every day, when you're on tour, and you don't have any problems with your vocals. But then again, you still have that rawness and that realness, because that's what you want when you go see a show. You want to feel something. You don't want somebody to just hit the note because they can hit the note. I mean, that's how I feel.
I can really relate to that. Like, because you find like you go down the path of learning all like the technical side of music, like going through and doing your grades or whatever, like learning certain techniques and things like that. But then like approaching it from like an artist perspective is completely different. And
Yeah.
it's like a creative side, and it's almost like starting again. It's like, like I mean, I play guitar, for example. It's like picking up guitar again for the
Mm.
first time and forgetting all the musical training, and then like looking at it purely from like a creative aspect. But you're saying you kind of now found the way to kind of merge those two aspects of it.
Yeah, and I think for me it's a lot to do with the song, So as a songwriter, I like it really has to do with the feeling and the way, if it has to feel right. So um yeah, it just has to feel right, really. So sometimes it'll take, some time, or sometimes you just get it like this. But it's the same with guitar. And honestly, like I've worked with guitarists that I've studied at Berkeley, and I have the hardest problems with them because when I'm like, okay, but like can you play, like I have to tell them exactly what I want versus my guitarist that I when we were on tour and in the band together, like it was just like the feeling, he just play it and I didn't have anything to say. I was like, yeah, exactly, that's it. So yeah, it's a very kind of different way. So I think you can learn an instrument and that's great technically, but then there's the whole feeling. Yeah, like you say, it takes some time to kind of combine it.
How do you kind of approach songwriting now then? Like you said, you've worked with the same producer for quite a
Mm.
while. Like, what does the creative process look like when you write music now?
But it's always been, so I sit down, I play piano. So for me, it's like sitting down, coming up with the chord progression, melody, and then kind of singing whatever is on my mind, record that, and then come back, 2 days later and kind of be like, is it good? Is it shit? Let's see. And then if it's good, I will then record it on my computer, through Logic. And then from that, depending on how it goes, but usually now I also do a pre-production, so I give everything to my producer, and I'm like, all right, so this is the overall idea, this is basically it. And then sometimes the production is good and we're just going to go with that, and you'll just maybe add some bass line or some things that I'm missing. And sometimes he'll be like, yeah, that's great, but what if we did that, or I'll be like, it's missing something. So it's a partnership, basically. We and there's no ego. It's not really about who does what and why. And same thing, sometimes he'll just give me a track and be like, hey, I have this track, do you want to write something on it and see what you come up with? And then that's how we do it. Or I'm writing lyrics and I'm stuck and I'm like, oh, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. And then you're like, what about try that? And now, oh, perfect. So yeah, it's just a partnership, really.
That's interesting. And like in terms of like the instrumentation then, like so you say mainly come with the piano and the keyboard lines and the vocals. How
Mm.
do the other layers kind of get built up?
So yeah, I hear everything. So I hear like the drums and so most likely depends on what kind of song. Obviously, we're in a genre of electro pop. This is the album that we put out. But most time it would be, yeah, it would be keyboard. It would be piano first, then it'll be keyboard, and then it'll be I'll put the bass line and the drums. And then from that, we'll layer it up with synth. So Aaron will come up with maybe a different kind of synth sound to make it bigger. And then we'll just kind of layer it up and see how it goes. It depends on the song, really. But yeah.
Okay, so it does kind of vary like song by song. Um,
Yeah.
with like the lockdown and stuff at the moment, wow, like the restrictions we've had for like the last sort of year or so, like what sort of challenges have you faced from that with like writing music and producing?
Well, actually, for me it's been great because I feel like you have to take things and you have to turn them into something positive, or else it just kills you. I mean, to me, it will kill me if I'm there and I'm like, oh my god, oh my god. So the first lockdown, I took the time because I never really had that time to just do music. I mean, when you're a musician, you have gigs, you have paid gigs, then you have like sometimes you don't have gigs, so then you have to find like a job on the side, and you're constantly kind of balancing everything. So so i so i had time this time, and I was like, okay, great. And I am signed to an indie label in Germany, and the label was telling me, was like, well, I think it's time for you to write an album. And I was like, okay, why not? So we just went through that, and it was obviously we were working remotely, but most of it all was me, writing, sitting down, writing the song, sending it to Aaron, and then him being like, okay, what's the idea? And then we go back and forth until we could go out, and then we would go to the studio and I record the vocals, and then yeah, that's how we did the album. And then on the second lockdown, we used that to kind of market the album, because that's also very important. And that's something I didn't do before, you know. I mean, musicians, we love music. All we want to do is music. However, the world is full of musicians. So then I started to study the marketing side of it, and just kind of keep putting things out, and you know how some people are more successful than others, and what do people want, you know. I am who I am, but what works for me, what people like to hear, you know. People like to hear, for example, me sing in French, or people, and kind of mix that with who I am, and then put it all together. And yeah, and so we launched the album one single at a time. So the album right now is at the fifth single, and that's done on purpose. It has like a whole kind of idea behind it. And it kind of keeps you in the loop, you know. It kind of keeps you going. And yeah, and it's been great. It's a lot of work, you know. Every song has a music video, every song has an acoustic version, every song has an acoustic music version. But it's been great, and it's been challenging, but also exciting. It has this kind of, you know, and also when you start doing everything on your own, because that's what we did because of COVID, you know. We It's quite interesting, because you could really see the different layers of being an artist. There's the music side, but then there's also the message, and then there's also the video, the you know, the art side of it. So yeah, I'm giving you a lot.
No, that's great. Like, how did you learn all like the marketing side? Because I think a lot of musicians struggle with that. Like you said,
Mm,
everyone loves to just play. How
mm.
did you learn that kind of stuff? And like, what advice would you give to an artist that's kind of struggling with that side?
I would say, like, you need to, like, artists need to learn everything. We can't just be artists and sing in a room, and you know, and you have to be extremely a hard worker, because it's so many things that maybe you're not interested in. You know, I'm not on Instagram or Facebook or social media all the time. However, I found that this is the way to say what you want to say. And there's way more people that are going to go on a video. You have the potential to reach so much more people on a video than you would to do a gig, unless you do a big festival, obviously. But you know, a night gig, what, you 50 people maybe you can kind of see, and they see your show. But then if you don't really have a connection with them, out of those 50 people, maybe 10 or 5 will follow you or kind of connect with you. So it's like, how do we switch that around? And I would suggest, I mean, I took a marketing course for art, for musician, and that was good. But I was listening, and I was listening not only to musician, how to market the music. I was listening to, you know, social media people, and the energy. And I like the fact that they were constantly like, oh, we need to do this, you need to do that. Entrepreneurs, like, just different people, different, and how do they push their what they're doing, and just kind of studying it, really. I'm not a social media marketing person, but I just kind of like looked into the different aspects, and honestly connecting with people through different socials, really, but really connecting, and being honest with that, not just being like, oh, hey, this is my music, play my music, you know. Being really honest with what you want, but also being like, well, it's a two-way street. What do you need, and what can I give you, and vice versa.
I love that, yeah, because I think I've seen loads of bands do this. They'll just like post and share like their track. Listen to my new single, and they'll just message like loads of different blogs and
Mm,
magazines, and a lot of the time that doesn't amount to anything
mm,
because, like you said, you're not being specific about like what you actually want to get out of it, why you're contacting them, etc. It's a bit like if you're a business and you're trying to sell a product.
mm.
Do you know what I mean? It's the same sort of aspect to it. But
Yeah,
I love that you've learned from like other sides. Sorry, go on.
yeah, no, and I was just gonna say that also, but there is something about that I understand, you know, because we work so hard to put that track out. You know, you go through the production, the mixing, the mastering, and then, you know, putting it out, all this stuff. So I understand that when it's out, you kind of like, okay, now it's out. But really, when it's out, it's like, oh, now it's the beginning of chapter two. You know, chapter two is like, what are we gonna do about it? And what makes you different than, than another person? That's also another topic, why somebody would want to listen to your music. And for me, for example, I love to talk and I love to communicate. So I use lockdown. Well, lockdown made me feel like, whoa, like I need to talk to people, like I need to meet new people. And the only way I could do that was through social media. So I like kind of got a click with that and was like, okay, so, because I worked in hospitality, I worked doing shows, whatever, because that's how you meet people. So being in lockdown, I was like, okay. So I just stuck to the people I know. That's how can we enjoy a conversation, or and then through that I started doing different things that I'm still doing it, and it's really cool, it's really fun. I every Saturday usually I'm the one interviewing other artists on their journey, and it's been a really it also gives me energy, and it just it's very cool to see other people doing the same thing that you're doing in different ways, and then you just kind of progress with that and see what happens. And I think don't put too much pressure. I would say don't put too much pressure on yourself, because it's too hard, or else
I think that's important because I find like creative people tend to be quite like critical of their
Mm.
own work. Like a lot of artists are like perfectionists, and sometimes that can hold you back and get you into a little bit of a hole with stuff.
Mm. But I mean, I'm a big, big, big perfectionist. I mean, I'm telling you that, but then I send that track back to my producer at least 15 times. I will rewrite a song. I don't know, sometimes wow. So I am a perfectionist, but I believe that every project that you do has to have an end to it. You cannot stop a project because you're not in the mood. It just doesn't feel right. I don't know, I just feel like you need to find a way, because if you were at any job you would have to find a way. And that's, I think we have this idea of the creative person that's like, in a house by themselves in the forest and then they write their album, and because they're and you could, if you're in that space, that's awesome, and that works for you, that's awesome. But it's also like, yeah, there's like, the world is big and we need to kind of take it all in, and be open to criticism, not, but also be happy. I think be happy with your results. That's the thing, just be happy with, okay, that's it. And because there's so many different parts, like I've recorded vocals that the mixing engineer mixed, and I was like, oh my God, like I'm not off. You're making me sound off and electronic. And can I sound like me, And I've had fights with mixing engineers where they were like, no, but this is cool. I'm like, no, this is not cool, So unless it's different if I'm on a job for hire. And when I'm on a job for hire, then I'm like, well, you're hiring me. It's your product. You tell me what you want and I'll do the best I can. But when it's my music, so I think you need to be a perfectionist, because after, when you put your product out there, like, is people will criticize it, they will criticize it to the ground, or they will say it's not good enough, or blah blah blah. And you want that. It's good to have that, because if everybody says, oh, it's amazing, for me there's a problem. I'm like, oh shit. You need that balance of it all. But if you're happy with what you did, then people will tell you like, oh yeah, the mixing is not good, the bass line should be higher, the vocals, I can't hear you. And you're like, okay, cool, like thank you, but for the next project I will take that in and just make sure that I'm putting that out. But yeah, you need to be a perfectionist, but you need to finish your project. That's what I would say to other musicians.
No, I think that's good advice. And I guess that you were saying that you get like quite a lot of feedback on your music. Like, how do you sort of deal with that? Do you get any like haters? Like, is it generally like really positive? And how do
Mm.
you kind of approach taking on the feedback from fans?
No, well, I don't have many haters yet. Although I like haters, though I have to say, I'm one of those people that are like, oh, there's no dislikes on the video. So yeah, don't have that many haters. I've had people that copied what I did. I've had people that, but I don't really pay attention because for me it's like, I'm really focused on moving forward, and for me every song I write, the next one should be better. Putting my message out there, talking to people. So I'm focused on what I'm doing. So if you want to copy me, like, good luck. Because I also work many, many hours a day. So my good luck, like, wow, like, okay. But yeah, I think, yeah, it just, I don't know, I just think you should just do you, and people will say whatever, oh, I don't like this, I don't like that, or this last track was so much better, and I don't know, I just kind of be like, just kind of have my vision of what I want and just focus on that. And yeah, sometimes, obviously I'm human, and sometimes I'll go and I'll talk to my producer. I'll be like, oh my God, you don't know how many people we have. Like, we put the single Not Sorry, and a lot of people criticize the mixing of it. Well, actually, Not Sorry was okay, but somehow a lot of people criticize the mixing. And I was like, but I don't feel like, and I had like loads, mostly mixing engineers, who would be like, that song should be, it's just very badly mixed. So part of me is like, oh man, I didn't hear that. For me, it doesn't sound like that. And part of me is like, well, if there's like 5 mixing engineers that are telling you the same thing, there has to be some truth to it. And then part of me is like, yeah, but it could be a little bit of jealousy, and kind of like, well, we didn't get to mix that song because a lot of them are like, the mixing is not great, but if you work with me, then it would be amazing. So you just, you have to kind of take it in, take it out, and just be like, okay. But if I'm totally honest, it took me a long time to be at this space where I'm at now, and time to learn how to balance it all. So, early on in my career, this was a big problem. People in the industry that would say mean, because people in the industry are very much harder than anybody else, I think. And I couldn't handle it. Like, it was like, oh my God, this. But then the whole thing switched when I made it something bigger than just me or my vocals. I found my reason why, like I said at the beginning, my voice. And it all switched, because then it was like, well, is it that important that one person doesn't like it? Okay. And I like people that don't like things, that are mad, because I just want to give them a hug and be like, it's okay, don't worry, it's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be okay. So yeah.
Do you want to talk to me a little bit about those struggles you had at that point and how you kind of overcame that?
Yeah, I work with various producers. I've had the typical, women, young girl in the industry that was taking advantage of a music producer. And that hurt me a lot, because they use what I love kind of against me. To the point where I thought, you know what, fuck it, sorry, can I curse? It's not good. To the point where I said, I'm just gonna produce myself. Like, I was just at that moment of like, well, if this doesn't work, then I'll just do it myself. And I kind of have that mindset. But I took a little break, I would say. Not long. Music has always been like what I wanted to do, but I just took a step back and kind of felt like, okay, like, let me see how I can deal with this. And I started doing yoga. And yoga for me is yoga meditation, really kind of helps me go back into me and kind of let go of everything else. And that really helps. That is a really big help. And the other thing is talking. Like I said, I like to communicate, and you just, if something goes wrong or you don't feel right, you need always to talk about it. That will make it become real, and also it will make it not so big, and you can deal with it much better than, keeping it all inside and just feeling like, well, I'm not going to make it because this one person that believe in me, and this guy is the blah, blah, blah of the, record label, blah, blah, blah. And if he doesn't believe, nobody will believe. And that's not true. That is not true. You just have to just be like, okay, cool. He has his opinion. What do I want? How do I want it to be? And can I do it? And sometimes you know, it takes too much work, like, and that's fine, and maybe that's not, it's not meant for you to be like that way, you know. But yeah, being an artist is a front, is in the front, is taking it all. You're taking it all the time. It's like ups and downs, the musicians, the this, the that, the marketing, the label, the, and you kind of like, okay, okay, it's gonna be okay. So yeah, I wake up in the morning really early and I do like an hour yoga or workout. And it's me. And I, even when I used to go to the gym, obviously with lockdown we can't, but I was, don't want to know anybody. I like, I don't talk to anybody. I'm with my music, whatever I'm doing, and I'm just like, the door is closed. I need an hour for myself, and that's how I deal with it.
Great. No, I think that's really good advice to find that thing that like helps you kind of through it. Okay, we're actually nearly out of time, but it's been great. Just wanted to ask, like, can you talk a little bit about your latest release and talk a little bit about what's in store for the future?
Yeah. So I just released my single called Rap Trap. It's the fifth song on the on our album Truth in There, and it is so every song, it takes you on a journey of self acceptance. It's sort of like an episode, like a Netflix type thing, and you, so the fifth song, Rap Trap, takes you to like the top of the mountain. So there's a lot of, you know, accepting who you are fully, like the ups, the down, the bad, the ugly, all that stuff, is takes courage. It takes it, there's a lot of things you need to go through to do that, and that's was the idea of the album, is taking you with me on that journey. And the reason why we release it once a month is because there's something about a song, there's a theme, and there's also a conversation to have about that. So Rap Trap is the top of, you know, you need to make that decision to decide who you want to be, you know. And if it doesn't, if something doesn't feel right for you, it's not right for you. Don't listen to everybody else. Don't listen to what you're supposed to be, who you're supposed to be in society, whatever. That is not going to make you happy. What's going to make you happy is how you feel in your gut. So Rap Trap just came out, and from that, so we're at the top, we fought to get there. It's coming down. So it's coming down is more of a soft kind of way. We have my next release is going to be a feature actually with my producer, which is also a singer, and we're doing a duet. And then it goes more into like an acoustic vibe for another French song. So there's some French song in the album. And then from there, it's just kind of like that realization of fully self-accepting yourself. And you see it on the album cover. The first album cover has me with a full mask. My face is covered. And then every single song, there's a piece of the mask and a piece of the feather that comes out. So you see a little bit more until the last song, which you see the full face. So yeah, we're at that point in the album where it comes down, and we can be like, okay, like, let's see how this feel. Now we start fighting. Let's see how embracing it all goes.
Wow, that sounds great. So where can people like find you and connect with you online?
Yeah, so the Andrea Dee, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, I'm on TikTok too now. But basically, you can go on my website, andreadee.me. And you have all my socials, music videos, and please do send me a message or email or whatever, however you connect, because yeah, I always, like I said, like to meet new people and like to hear what you think.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thanks for your time today, Andrea. It's been great.
Thank you very much. Talk to you soon.
Take care.
You too. Bye.